Welcome, everyone, to After Hours on Traders Post for this November 29th, 2024. I'm one of your hosts, marketing manager here at Traders Post, Tom Hartman, alongside Peter, not Mike Hartman. How's it going, Peter?
I'm doing well. Executing my job here as being not Mike, which is a flawless execution, I think.
Well, what happens is that, on a day where the stock market closes early, it's Black Friday, Americans are with their loved ones. Traders Post says, hey, put the two Canadians on the screen.
Smart move. Smart move.
Makes a lot of sense. Peter, it's been a quiet week in markets, but you know what hasn't been quiet?
What?
The comments on our last videos for After Hours.
So we're addressing the controversy.
Yeah. So, we're going to be touching on that today. So just going over the headlines, we're going to be hitting on the MSTR again. Is it good? Is it bad? Spoilers. Actually, I don't want to do spoilers right now. I don't want to controversy.
If you watch the last video, I think we're going to know what the spoiler is.
After that, we want to touch on Bitcoin and the M2 money supply. The M2 money supply has been the cheat sheet for trading Bitcoin.
I know what that is.
Yeah, it's signaling some issues. And then finally, I want to hit on, I figured we should have some required watching on the show. I do a lot of sensationalistic things, but stuff like this is really insightful. We're going to be hitting on the video from Dr. Pilpa, Malgrom, and Michael W. Green. Very fascinating, very interesting, very insightful. But before we do, I just want to know, Peter, I want to touch on all your trades you've been doing so far. I want to get a sense of, you've been making big moves. Are you the guy who bought, $900 million worth of call options on MSTR?
No, best trade ever. This is not financial advice. Buy Bitcoin and just hold it.
Okay, so that was one of the biggest
diamond hands.
That was one of the biggest comments that we kept getting on the MSTR video from last time,
right?
Which was, these guys don't know anything about Bitcoin, or if you're trading Bitcoin, you've already lost. And I get it. I totally understand that. I don't know if I haven't said it enough on this video, and I'm pretty sure Mike agrees. We're not saying trading as a replacement for hodling, as a replacement for your long-term portfolio. Have your long-term assets, be exposed to the markets you want to be exposed to, and the trading is ways of trying to collect some more pennies off the ground, get a few more percentage points along the way.
I don't think you should. That's the wrong tack, Tom. Okay, the balanced approaches, it's not smart for the internet. What you need to do is double down. Never ever hodl Bitcoin. Always trade it. In fact, the worst Bitcoin is a Bitcoin you have. Okay? It should be
and short MSTR every day, all day, right?
Absolutely. That and Elon. Anything Elon does, just short that.
So I want to clarify a few things over here. All right. First of all, let me make myself clear. I am not an expert in MSTR. I never said I was. Mike never said he was. I'm just giving my opinion based on what it looked like from the outside. What it looks like from the outside, and I don't know how anyone could deny this, is that Michael Saylor is going place to place, building to building, show to show, talking about how wonderful the MSTR trade is.
And why wouldn't he?
Well,
Okay, but just so you know, okay, I'm not like one of you guys. All right, I'm from the comment section. That's who I am, and I agree with the comment section. You bulldozed Michael Saylor unfairly. You defamed him. Okay, but you really went hard on him. Okay, you have your opinion, but I've never heard so many. I never heard an opinion said with such force before. What's up with that? You got some beef with Michael Saylor? You got some
my
beef with
problem
Bitcoin?
is that well, I think that my opinion of Michael Saylor, well, first of all, I'm very bombastic as a person. That's just how I am. I'm very flamboyant. I'm over the top. I totally understand that. But the other part is that so is he, and so is the rhetoric around MSTR, the golden laser eyes of Michael Saylor online. All right, the Bitcoin maxis, and I have nothing against maxis. I have the Bitcoin maximalists have in large part adopted, or what it seems like in large part adopted, this person as a prophet, as an ambassador, as a
Yeah, that's exactly what he is. He's a spokesperson for Bitcoin. You think one of the red flags is that he's going around talking about Bitcoin. But I mean, why wouldn't you talk about Bitcoin? Why wouldn't you go and evangelize it? You think it's actually a savior for the system?
Do I think Bitcoin's a savior for the system?
Oh, he does.
Yeah, of course. Well, here's the thing. Someone who is telling the truth avidly and someone who is lying avidly sounds the same. This is true for any
Okay.
type of thing you're doing.
All right.
Right?
It's convenient.
The really good liars sound exactly the same as the sincere evangelists. So it's hard to tell those two apart. So when I see that sort of like fervor, then I go, this is something to watch out for. Now, I was making the comparison to Luna and the SBF and all that in the last one, not because I'm saying that MSTR is specifically like that type of Ponzi scheme. I was
Mhm.
just saying that it's sus. That's all I was saying, that it's sus. Right?
Okay,
That's
but
the
what
point I'm
is
saying.
it? It's sus because your gut feeling says it's sus. Because what you were saying is he's going around running his mouth. Why is he doing that? I think I debunked what you said about that. Is debunked, and then you
Well,
went on.
I just want to touch on that, Peter, because in the comments, people were saying, hey, he's not telling people to buy MSTR. He's telling people to buy Bitcoin. Yeah, I get it. Because if Bitcoin goes up, MSTR goes up. He doesn't need to tell people to buy MSTR. Of course, he's going to tell people to buy Bitcoin. The whole point here, Peter, I don't know if you know just to boil it down here. Do you know the issue with like Michael Saylor's been going around essentially selling bonds, convertible bonds for MSTR? The pitch is
Mhm.
that you buy this bond. So basically, you're lending money to MSTR for them to go and buy Bitcoin. He states, I'm going to go buy Bitcoin with what the money you're giving me, and I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to sell the Bitcoin. So the idea here is that you get this bond that you can exercise. I believe the last one is in 2029. Please, comments don't hold me to the exact numbers. I'm not trying to memorize any of the stuff, but 2029. And the idea is that you'll be able to convert that bond either in cash, you can get the cash for it, just like a regular bond, or you can get a certain number of shares. Now, let's say right now, I don't know, MSTR is trading at $400 per share, and the bond converts at $600 per share. Now, that's only worthwhile to you, like you're only really making money, is if you think the share price will be higher than $600 in the future in 2029. So if you think it's going to be 800, you're like, okay, I'll take this trade because I'll get this. I'll be able to get the shares of MSTR at a lower price in the future. It's a call option. Here's what bothers me here, though. All right, so the bond doesn't have a coupon. There's no interest payments on the bond. It's a 0% bond. Right, Peter? So
Okay.
if I tell you, lend me $100,000 and I'll give you back $100,000, you might be like,
But it doesn't that beat
okay.
inflation, or doesn't that? Isn't the reason 0% interest is desirable because if you didn't do that, you would lose money? Isn't that what Saylor
No,
says?
no. In this scenario, because the bond is so desirable, he doesn't actually have to provide interest, 0% interest,
Oh, I see.
or any type of interest, because the interest is supposed to be something to incentivize someone to actually buy the bond. So
Mhm.
if you're worried that the company is high risk, you might say, okay, I want a 7% interest, an 11% interest, or whatever it is. But here, people are going, no, no, no. I'm going to make my money off when I convert the bond into the stock. I'm going to get more money there. That's going to be my payout, and
Right.
it's worth it to me. So I'll buy the bond at 0%. So people were buying it, let's say, at a 55% premium for what it was trading at the time the bond was offered. So, and I get that, right? Because the people are thinking, and this is what I understand. This is why I tiptoe around the idea. I'm not calling it a Ponzi scheme, but this is why I can understand how people are talking about it as a Ponzi scheme. Because the idea here is that why would the shares be above $600 in 2029, right? Not because you're actually getting the Bitcoin. You're not getting the Bitcoin. The idea here is that you're expecting that Michael Saylor will continue, or MSTR will continue to do this. Will
Yeah.
continue to buy more Bitcoin.
I mean, he will.
Well, I mean, that's the idea. And in order to make the share price more valuable.
Right.
Right? So you're counting on this thing happening. So you're counting, are people in the future buying more of this, of the bond or whatever scheme
I'm
they
rolling
come
my
up with,
eyes. You're
in
about to
order
talk
to
about
buy
pyramid
more
scheme. Is that
more
it?
Bitcoin. Well, when you need, and those bondholders get paid out by the new money that comes in, right? Because I'm not entirely, I don't know this for a fact, but I don't know that the money that they have on hand covers the entire value of the bonds. If they have to pay out all the bonds in 2029, I don't know that they have as much cash on hand. I don't know. And he says he's not going to sell Bitcoin, so I would assume that the only way he can get more money in is if new people buy the next series of bonds. So if you need new people to buy in order to pay out the people who bought before, and that's where the money's coming from, it's not coming from economic activity, it's coming from a financial instrument. I don't understand how this is not a Ponzi scheme.
Is Bitcoin a valuable asset? Is it a real thing?
Yes, but he states that they're not going to sell any Bitcoin. So if he was saying, well, we're going to sell the Bitcoin at a profit or whatever, and then you're going to get your payout there, and we're essentially custodian or whatever it is for the Bitcoin, then I'd be like, fine.
But why would
But
you
he's
sell
saying
the
they're not gonna
Bitcoin if Bitcoin increases in value?
One more time?
If Bitcoin is going to increase in value, why would anybody sell the Bitcoin?
Well,
You can
the
just borrow
bonds,
against the Bitcoin.
well, MSTR has to pay out the bonds. So they either have to pay it out in cash, which most people won't want unless the bond is the value of the stock is less than the convertible price of the set price of the bond, or they have to pay out in more shares. So if they pay out the bondholders in shares, great, right? MSTR doesn't have to actually give any money. They just pay out with more selling the shares into the market, getting that money, and then and that money, those shares are then given to the holders.
But shares are something. Like, to me, a pyramid scheme is where the thing that you're selling or offering doesn't have any value, no?
Yeah, so this is why on the last video, I think I was talking about like the 4 or 5 different.
By the way, move your
criteria.
masculine mic just a little bit away because you're getting so excited and so animated. You're peaking. But yeah, go ahead. I'm the video
The
editor.
4 or
so-
5, the 4 or 5 like options, like the criteria for a Ponzi scheme. I think I even said in the video, no, it's not exactly this.
Right.
It's not exactly this. But if someone had, I don't want to go there. It's going to make some sort of a DSM joke. But if you have 3 out of 5 traits of being a douchebag, well, then you're 3/5 a douchebag. I don't know what to tell you. The issue here is that they require new money in order to make this whole thing pay out, because otherwise the share price might not go up. Now, I just want to share this conversation. I thought it was pretty insightful from that was happening between Lyn Alden and Lily on Twitter a couple of months ago or last month, talking about this very issue, because Lily is making the case that it seems very, I don't know if she calls it a Ponzi scheme, but let's just go over the conversation here. I'll just read it to you.
Spicy.
All right. Can you see that there, Peter?
Yeah, I know who Lyn Alden is. She's amazing. Well, she's sharp. Lily is who, a reporter or what?
She is a trader turned millionaire turned financial commentarist.
And who do you think is the sharper one here, Lily or Lyn Alden? I just mean, are they on par?
I would say Lyn Alden is the sharper one. Certainly.
Okay. All right, go for it.
Let me just, can I increase the size of this?
No, we can read it. It looks good.
All right. So I'll just go quickly through this conversation. It just makes me kind of sad that just like last cycle, the crypto markets favor illiquid leverage beta schemes, MSTR, and obvious valueless zero-sum gains, meme coins, versus rewarding actual builders building cool stuff. So this is the main complaint for Lily.
Valid.
And Lyn Alden comes in and says MSTR is insanely liquid in terms of volume. It's a way for stock and bond managers to get some Bitcoin exposure.
Right.
They go back and forth here. This idea that there are people in the markets who cannot buy Bitcoin directly, and they can't even buy the Bitcoin ETFs. And so the miners for Bitcoin and MSTR become a good proxy.
That's what Sailor says.
Yes. So I do not know a single manager who would have such a weird mandate. This is almost entirely retail flow. And if you need more evidence, the Yield Max MSTR ETF selling covered calls and the Leverage MSTR ETF both are good evidence for who's the end buyer. The billions in demand for their convertible bonds are not retail. This is a very salient point. I think retail should be cautious on the equity when premium to net asset value gets high like it is now. So then they go back and forth and talk about it. And essentially, Lyn is saying this is not like the Luna situation. The Luna token, the Luna platform, they needed to sell Bitcoin when things went bad. Whereas MSTR doesn't need to do that. They just can't sell more bonds. Right? So they don't actually have to sell the Bitcoin. It's not going to be necessarily net selling for the on the crypto markets. But then Lily says, well, if people are putting money within the if retail traders are putting money within the, or anyone putting money within the this MSTR trade, then they're not doing it in the crypto markets. And isn't that buying pressure that would be there for the crypto markets and that are not there for the that are not there now? All right, so that's so then Lyn Alden basically wraps this all up saying that MSTR is insanely liquid, that liquidity is not the issue. Three times net asset value is dangerous for equity holders, not the bond holders. She says the equity holders wants to be careful. And outside of Bitcoin stablecoins, she also agrees that she sees limited blockchain adoption. To her earlier point, blockchains aren't magic and only solve certain things. All right, so a couple of points here I just wanted to touch on.
Wait, so isn't Lyn Alden debunking you?
Well, Lyn Alden doesn't completely she doesn't agree with my stance. She's saying that the risk, if there's any risk at all, isn't to the bond holders, it's to the equity holders, and the risk there is the risk that the equity holders know already, that there's volatility within the asset, right? Because remember I was saying, if the stock price might not get to the level that makes the convertible bond worthwhile, but then they could just convert that bond back to the nominal amount that they had originally. Fine, it doesn't cover inflation, blah, 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 but that's true for any type of bet like that. And so the bond holders are not really the ones at risk. The risk is for the equity holders. Now, Michael Saylor, to hear him talk about it, he goes, well, this is good, right? The volatility on the stock price is what allows the bond to be able to be sold at 0% interest. It allows the bond to be desirable, right? When he talks about Bitcoin, that MSTR is a Bitcoin nuclear reactor, spinning Bitcoin at the speed of light, increasing volatility, whatever he's saying, his whole spiel, he's saying that this is the case, that the fact that the stock can swing, what is it swung 30%, down 30% the other day, that this volatility is what makes the asset and what makes these plays valuable, right? So the uncertainty as to whether or not the share price would get to a certain level now allows people to go in arbitrage. People go, I really think it'll go down, so they short the the stock. Other people goes, no, I think it really go up. It goes up. Other people express it in options. Other people express it on the secondary market for the bonds. It creates this market, which is why Lyn Alden is saying it's highly liquid, right? And
that's good. That provides security.
Well, volatility provides optionality, provides ways for people to express what they think would be good.
But liquid means that we don't have to worry that there's no money.
No, liquid means that there's enough volume that if you want to buy and sell the stock, you're not moving the stock based necessarily on your purchase. It means that you're not going to be sitting there going, well, now I want to sell. Well, now we can't sell because if everyone tries to sell now, or too many people start to sell, the price starts gapping down.
I see.
All right. I don't want to go too long on this. I just want to wrap it up with a couple of points here. So I did bring up the idea that what concerns me is that, and please, You can explain this in the comments all you want. I'm happy to get more information about it. We're talking about it because we're interested in it, not because we're experts. But it does seem to me that the value of the stock isn't on the underlying asset, right? No one is talking about MSTR as this amazing software company. That's not what it is, right? The idea is that people are buying the stock because the idea is that it'll go up in price, and it'll go up in price because MSTR says they're going to keep on buying Bitcoin. The only way you're going to buy more Bitcoin is get new money in.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, I get all this, but I'm not seeing where the problem is, given that Bitcoin is something that's real, good, and valuable. What's the
But when
problem
you
with
buy
this?
MSTR, you're not buying Bitcoin. You are exposing yourself to the volatility of the MSTR stock. That's what he's selling.
Yeah, but there's an advantage to doing that because you can do things with that
Yes.
that you can't do with Bitcoin. And there are companies who can't buy Bitcoin. So what's the problem? He's providing a solution to getting Bitcoin out into the world to increase the speed of adoption by providing this other avenue.
Well, I don't know that he's increasing the speed of adoption. He's buying more Bitcoin.
Well, he's creating an atmosphere and environment where it's permissible for people to go in and take that risk. I mean, isn't
MSTR is currently owns, I think, something like 1% of the Bitcoin supply,
Mhm.
and they have a stated purpose of never selling it. This reduces the supply of Bitcoin, does not increase adoption. It increases the price, but not adoption. He's not coming up with use cases for Bitcoin other than as a financial vehicle for increasing the price of some other asset.
Okay, I've listened to a lot of Michael Saylor. He talks about if you keep your money in cash, which is what they were doing, you're losing money every month to inflation.
Yes.
And that Bitcoin is a way for you to guard your money so that it can be here 100 years from now. That you can pass it on to your children, et cetera, so you
If
can
you own
survive.
Bitcoin.
If you own Bitcoin, yes, I understand that. So he's demonstrating by the strength of his own conviction and the actions that he's taken. Hey, don't keep your money in cash. That's stupid. Put it into Bitcoin for all the security and all the benefits that you get from Bitcoin. I don't understand what the problem with that is.
Well, he is helping to inflate the price of Bitcoin by funneling money that can't go into Bitcoin. This is what you're saying is the advantage. That in a sense, that adoption, he's an avenue for money to get into the Bitcoin space. But that's not increasing the, well, I don't even want to go down that route because it might actually be beneficial for holders for adoption down the line. What I am saying is that this is a scheme that might end with MSTR, the stock, crashing massively, right? Because what we haven't talked about today, and I'll end on this. We haven't talked about the idea that the convertible bonds aren't adding leverage to MSTR, but there are now what is it, MSTU, MSTX, which are leverage long, leverage short ETFs on MSTR, right? So then you have these entities who are trying to be levered long exposures to MSTR, so they are now buyers of the of swaps and options on the asset. And what's going on over there seems to be dubious. I'm not going to go into all the dubious there, but it looks like they switch from swaps to options because banks wouldn't give them the credit or something to that effect to be able to buy the swaps. So they're in the option space. So who knows how that goes? And with options, what you get is this gamma effect. So it could be that a down move in Bitcoin, a small down move in Bitcoin gets exacerbated with a down move in MSTR, which gets even more exacerbated with a down move in the option space. And because of the gamma, we accelerate down to the downside. That we can get massive crashes or even massive run-ups. So you get far more volatility. So I'm not sure. And there's examples of stuff like this in the past. I believe like JNUG, UVIX, where these vehicles as a proxy for something looks all good on the surface and ends up collapsing exactly when it matters most. And so in my mind, I go, in 2029, what does the Bitcoin space look like? What does the regulatory space look like in crypto? Does a vehicle like MSTR make sense 2-4 years from now? I don't know. But if the value of owning this asset is that they continue to have the scheme in order to increase their holdings of Bitcoin, I don't know how long that can go for. So I'm just going to leave it there. Because
Well, before you leave it there, what's the trade?
the trade is always long Bitcoin, long US dollar, Peter. There are no other trades. Long crypto, long Nasdaq. Oh, that was the other thing. If MicroStrategies gets added to if MicroStrategies does get added to the Qs, to the QQQ ETF, if that does happen, long calls on MSTR, long MSTR. All right, because then you get passive investment flows within the markets. There's going to be people who have to buy it no matter what, and it's going to rocket up. So if it does get added to the QQQs, long calls on MSTR and enjoy your new boat.
So you don't care that this pyramid scheme or Ponzi scheme or whatever?
Well, I care in the sense that if people are going into it going, I know I'm buying this high volatility. I'm talking about retail traders. I know I'm going into this high volatility thing. It's not going to be a sure bet, but I'm taking the risk. Fine. But I don't like the conversation around it. Like, I'm going to hold this for the long term because I know it's going to go to the moon. And I saw a post someone, they sold all their Bitcoin to buy MSTR because they're like, this is a better trade than Bitcoin. Stuff like that I don't like saying.
All right.
Next up.
All right, let's fix something here. My video is too dark and you're too loud. So just move the microphone a little away from you because
I just lowered my gain.
Sailor got you triggered. And I'm dark here for some reason. But okay, that was fun. Thank you, Tom, for explaining things to me. I'm still on the side of Michael Saylor. Do you know if you go to hope.com, Michael Saylor owns that and explains all kinds of things about Bitcoin?
Yeah, I've been reading quite a bit about it.
You're a little too quiet now. And I think he's educating the population, which I think is valuable. But I hear what you're saying. And look, you've put me into some great trades here, so I'm only playing devil's advocate here. I'm not going to pretend that I understand everything completely, but I will keep worshiping at the altar of Michael Saylor. Praise Michael Saylor.
Good idea. All right, I wanted to bring up the liquidity for there it is. Okay, so 1 second. All right, Peter. So M2 money supply has dipped. Are you familiar with what M2 money supply is?
Is that liquidity?
Yeah, exactly. The amount of money printed in the U.S. system. So it's dipped here. And 1 second. All right. So we had a dip down here. And this pullback, we haven't actually seen a pullback in the actual price yet. And the liquidity, been reading some articles where people are saying that it's like a 70-day lag between the moves in M2 liquidity and the Bitcoin price. If that's the case, then we might have a period of sideways move before we get to 100,000, or we might be headed into bear market territory. Now, like we're seeing over here. Now, I don't think we're headed into bear market territory only because, like, this is the idea over here that we have this bear zone. I don't think we're headed into that area just yet. I think we head into that area at the first quarter next year. Let's call it February, March. But that for now, we're going to have these a large move in Bitcoin. I think we do cross 100,000. That we cross it just a little bit, middle out there. Maybe we go to 110, 120. I don't know how far that can go, depending on what the options change looks like for Bitcoin. But then I would expect a pullback, pretty significant pullback afterwards. If we do get a significant pullback, that's in the order of the magnitude of the drop in M2. We could be looking at something like 80,000 on Bitcoin.
Ooh.
Yeah, which would be great. I'd love to see that.
Why? So you can buy more?
Heck yeah. Want to buy, stack that Bitcoin, bro. If there's one thing Michael Saylor and I have in common is that we want to gather Bitcoin.
And you want to fleece the next guy? Is that it?
Only who wants my Bitcoin.
Okay, whenever there's a trade, you're the one who taught me this. Whenever you're making money, somebody else is losing money. So
Well,
isn't
they
that
might not. No, they might not be losing money. They're just if you're selling, someone's buying. If you're buying, someone's selling. But you might both be making money. But someone's losing money at some point.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's always going to be the people behind who are losing and
Oh
the people
no,
ahead.
only in a zero sum game. If it's not a zero sum game, then that's not necessarily the case.
All right. So what are we talking about here? So you showed the Bitcoin chart. You gave your price prediction, possible price prediction. What are you thinking? It's going to go down? You said you think it's more likely to go up.
Well, we're going up, right? In general, we're headed up. What I'm
Mhm.
worried about is the next window of weakness, which is starts, let's say, mid-January next year till March. Once we get past that, then I think things are safe. But what I'd be looking for, the trade for me, is if we get a drop, if we get a significant drop. In fact, any drop that we get between now and 80,000, buy these dips,
Hmm.
especially in the altcoins. So I'd be looking to get more Cardano. I'd be looking to get more Doge. I'm sure Solana would be a great bet for people who love Solana, not me, but people who love Solana would be a great bet. And so, but I wouldn't be expecting a massive correction where now it's a bear market for where the bull market is done. That's like the point I'm trying to make. I think
So
we do drop, but
you talked about at the upper limit 120. Can it go? What's it going to look like?
no, I don't know the upper limit. When we're breaking up, when we're breaking out, and there's options flows that are affecting the asset price, you can't actually put a cap. You don't know how far it can go. The likelihood that you get the peak, you can't bet on that, but it's like something breaking through. You never know how much momentum can actually push it through. Plus, we're in blue skies territory, right? We're all-time highs. There's no other technical analysis to go on. You have those charts that talk about the potential tops in Bitcoin, but these are all speculative. We don't actually know how far it can go. I care more about the pullbacks within a bull market. Those pullbacks are golden opportunities, especially with people like me who like leverage plays. You can make a lot of money that way.
It's a golden opportunity because if the trend is upwards and it pulls down, it's very likely that it's a minor dip and it'll go back up, so you can make money on that bounce.
Exactly, like a 30%. So you can, I mean, it's hard to say short from here. Maybe you want to do that, but it's sort of like 50-50 whether the short will actually pay off. But if it drops and then you start adding leverage positions in, when you write it back up, right? If I put a leverage position on of if on a 1% move, if my position is 100x leverage, well, that's a 100% gain, right? So on a 1% move, I could double my money if you're doing this properly, right?
You talked about trailing stops in Blueprint this week. Can you do trailing stops with Bitcoin?
Sure.
And wouldn't that be the smart way to execute what you're talking about? When it goes down, you can buy some to catch.
If you're doing it in the leverage positions like I'm talking about, I don't generally deal with the stops because you do not to get too complicated, but in a sense, if you need the stop for your position, it means your position is big enough that if you were to lose that position, you lose too much money, right? You wouldn't want
Right.
to do that, and so you
Right.
have to stop there. I rather have my leverage positions to be smaller to begin with, and my stop is the liquidation price of the position. So my positions are smaller, but then I don't have to worry about a stop. And if I wanted to, if I need to express more of a position, I'll just add to it as opposed to get a large position to begin with because I don't know where the bottom is going to be.
That's Mike. That's Mike's influence on you. Risk management. It's the size of your position, not stop losses and things like that, right?
Yes, Yoko. Yes, in the chat, he was asking about the script from Thursday Blueprint. I will have that posted. I was actually making some other modifications on it. I'll get that posted today for you. I'll make sure to put that on.
Awesome. I'll definitely remind him to make sure.
All right. So that's it for Bitcoin. I did want to end on something that was near and dear to my heart, Peter, which is financial
Cardano.
education. No, not
Okay.
Cardano at all. Do you? I don't know if we've talked about Mike Green before or Dr. Pippo Malgrom.
Mike
They
Green,
are
yes, but I don't know. I follow
yes.
them on X.
Okay, that's a great idea. They're great followers. So Dr. Pippa, she was the special assistant to President George W. Bush at the National Economic Council, and Mike Green is the chief strategist and portfolio manager at Simplify Asset Management. What I like is that this is sort of like Mike Green is like Wall Street, and Dr. Pippa is like State Street meeting. So if you want to hear what the elites think about us people, these are people who are like in District 1, Hunger Games District 1, but they are Woody Harrelson. Like they want to help out the or who was I forget who the black guy was, the singer in District 1 who made the dress for Katniss Everdeen. So there are people, there are people in District 1. There are people in the correct time zone. If you watch In Time with Justin Timberlake, or I want to make Divergent, or quotes Maze Runner. I don't know, all those dystopian youth novels.
Right.
I think of that we're in this. I think of them as District 1, but they care about what happens to the country as a whole, to the individuals, and the conversations that these people have are super useful to broaden your horizon, to think about your future. So I just wanted to play a quick clip from through the video. I'll share it in the chat, and I think everyone should take a look at it. It came out a few weeks ago, but take whatever, the 30 minutes or whatever it was to listen to this video, because it was absolutely fantastic.
Wait, you're about to play 30 minutes of a video right now?
Absolutely, I'm going to play 30 minutes of a video. No, Peter. All right, I'm just going to play the first part of it and then a little bit of the inside, just to give you guys a taste, wet your whistle a bit.
We point to things like, well, wages rose as well, but not so much relative to, say, the cost of groceries, which are up 25+%.
Totally. By the way, this is a really key point. The difference between nominal and real inflation after the financial crisis. The textbook says lower interest rates to nothing, and that will stimulate activity. Well, yes, but it turns out that most of the startups have not been able to raise any capital. Mm-hmm. So it's all based on the fact that your lower interest rates implies that banks are lending into the economy. But banks not only stopped lending, they don't even have any lending officers. They don't fulfill that function in the economy anymore. You know, I really do think that human beings are our most undervalued asset. Yeah. And people are capable of extraordinary things. And they're so empowered now with AI and, again, everything on a supercomputer that's in your hand. And they're figuring out how to generate cash flow. And I see this.
Propped up, and then let's prop up the other one, et cetera. And we are constantly propping those up without really even realizing what we're doing or why we're doing it in a lot of situations, right? So there's a lot of frustration. I see this on Twitter all the time where people are saying, let the system fail, right? Well, when you let the system fail, to quote from The Big Short, right, people die, right? We're talking millions and millions of deaths that occur in that result. I don't think anyone is quite as cavalier when they think about it in that context, but it does actually highlight that as a society, we need to figure out some way of disentangling that social framework from the market framework. And ultimately, I do think that more of that responsibility falls on the capitalist or speculator class. You know, we are going to have to figure out some better way of handling a lot of these transitions, because we really are. You highlight the amazing opportunities that are ahead, and the disinflationary or outright deflationary nature of many of these. I look at the cost of accessing or providing what are called tokens for calculation on ChatGPT, and my understanding is the cost is down by a factor of 100,000 in the past 2 years. Effectively, we've gone from an environment in which, think about it, the cost of getting in your car, driving to the library, asking the local librarian to help you search up some information, right? And then providing you with calling up a local professor and saying, what's your interpretation of these materials that I've looked up, right? Which it sounds crazy, particularly to young people today, but like that was the process of research that we went through in the 1970s and 1980s. And today I type it in on my phone, which happens to work wherever I am, and I plug it into ChatGPT and I say, what's the interpretation of this? And it comes back with something that's probably pretty close to as good as what that college professor would have told me. Certainly when I wasn't paying them for that insight. But part of the question then becomes, well, what does everybody do?
Exactly. Well, so here's the good.
When you
All right,
put it
that's
that
just
way.
about your whistle. Great conversation. I absolutely love it. It's really great to hear. To me, this is like the all-in podcast, but if they were like two decent human beings,
Oh my God.
you know what I mean? Like really decent people all around.
Why are you trying to create enemies?
I will take on Chamath Palihapitiya any day of the week. All right, you want to get him on after hours? I'll have a one-on-one with him. No, but they they're all part of the same world. But to hear how all these people think and talk and the things that they care about, like these two people, they don't have to sit around doing this. They're multimillionaires. They don't have to do any of this. But that they're doing it is super, super insightful. And whether you agree or disagree with them, it's fascinating, the conversation.
They talked about two things. One was inflation and what they're doing to combat inflation. And you told me that thing where the banks aren't actually lending to businesses. So I don't know if you want to talk about that. And then the other thing sounded like a second subject where the cost of doing business is dramatically lower, or the access to information is lower.
Deflation,
So
yeah, exactly.
how do you relate those two? Why do we watch that?
Well, the video is very wide-ranging. I said it was 30 minutes. It's actually an hour and a half. I remember watching it, and the time just flew by. But the idea is that they touch on the mandate of the Fed, monetary fiscal policy. They touch on global macro events, wars, populist uprisings, fourth turning type conversations. They talk about deflationary effects, like you're just bringing up, that the cost of things are going down, the types of trades, the types of advice you would give to your children. Really wide ranging.
Oh, so it's just a recommendation of something to watch that would be edifying.
That's right. But for the two things you're talking about they're talking about the Fed policy, that the Fed policy was made at a time where the interest rates would have a predictable effect within the economy. But now it's not, because the transmission mechanism for the interest rate change are the banks, but the banks aren't lending.
Right.
Credit is being created some other way, but it's not through the banks. So they go, well, our policy then doesn't work. And then when you're talking about the ChatGPT example, he was giving the example as long-winded way of how you might do research, but that's literally the definition of deflation.
Right.
He's saying that the increase in productivity that we have, and at the rate of it, is that within his lifetime, he's not even old. Within his lifetime, he goes from something that would have cost thousands and taken weeks to months to do to something that takes seconds to do for the same quality or better. Totally. And so he goes, we don't know how to factor that in. We just don't know how to factor it in. And how the conversation goes from there is pretty fascinating. I want you to watch this with the eye that Mike Green, what he's great at is asking questions. And what Pippa Malgrom is great at is giving you answers that elites are thinking about. Really, really fascinating. So take a look at that.
We'll post that link in the comments down below. So go ahead and check that if you're watching this after the fact. Tom, we have a question in the chat here asking, Danielle is asking, what do you think about XRP?
So interesting. I've been having so many conversations about the XRP thing, because I was talking about ADA last time as the part of the Trump trade, right? Because Charles H is part of the, it seems to be part of at least advisors to the Trump administration as it pertains to the cryptocurrency space, which makes sense. He's been a big driver of that. But XRP, because I wasn't really in the space, I wasn't really understanding how much they were being suppressed. Right, they're being suppressed as a competitor to, I believe, USDC as the stable coin, which is more centralized, top-down controlled, or something to that effect. And so XRP is one of those things where ADA was even talking about, Cardano was even talking about now collaborating with XRP in order to introduce a stable coin within the Cardano system, and some other benefits I don't know offhand. And so the XRP has been rising dramatically. I think it went up 20% even just today, because if that pressure is gone, the regulatory pressure is gone from some of these assets where there's uncertainty and we don't know how it's going to be taxed or whether it's going to be illegal and all that. If that's gone, well, then that longevity, that time they had in market to work underneath this headwind, and now the ability to perhaps proceed with the plans that they had into place and actually help revitalize the financial system and create new opportunities and all that, it looks like that's being reflected within the price. One thing that actually happened recently that that I thought was pretty interesting, I believe in Wyoming, I think you saw that video for Charles Hoskinson, the adoption of a stable coin within that state, that you can go get more information about it, but essentially they didn't use Cardano.
Yeah.
They didn't name Cardano as one of the options. Only like Ethereum coins, Stellar, a bunch of other tokens, but not Cardano. And Cardano was part of apparently hundreds of meetings in order to get this policy up into the table and moving. And the idea that they were shafted was unbelievable. And also XRP was shafted. And Charles was making the case that if you had an open system, if you had an open process and you were doing an RFP, why on earth would you shut out two of the biggest coins ever?
That actually makes me think about what happened in California with Tesla, where Tesla's vehicles were kept out of the discount that you get for EVs in California. You're like, what's going on here? In a fair, open process, there's no way you leave out Tesla. In a fair and open process, there's no way you leave out Cardano and XRP. What is this, regulatory capture? Is this what's going on here?
So that's the question. I think the person who's the head of the policy group in Wyoming worked somehow tangentially with a conflict of interest. I don't want to name the things. I don't know exactly, but conflict of interest there. It's very, very fascinating, very interesting. So
what's the trade?
Well, I have like people that I know who are like, hey, maybe my love for XRP is like reviving. Maybe I want to buy that. Maybe XRP goes to $3, $4. Look, to me, if I wasn't in ADA, if I was chasing performance, I would go for the things that are being backed by these district winners.
Right.
I would go with the Solanas. I would go with the meme coins and for Solana. Like if I'm going for performance, if I go for
is XRP not being backed by District 1?
No, clearly not. They were trying to destroy it. So who knows?
Interesting. Well, thank you for that question, Danielle. Fascinating. I got to look into XRP a little bit more.
That's right. All right, so we'll leave it there for this After Hours. It was great, Peter, to have you here, even though you're not Mike. I'll take what I can get. And we'll be back next week on Tuesday for Office Hours, answering all your questions for Traders Pulse, on Thursday for Blueprint, for walkthroughs, for automated trading, and back next Friday for another wonderful episode of After Hours. Have a great week.
Like and subscribe. Take care. Happy Friday.